Guys, today I'm going to make such a recipe that it has to be world famous like the tiramisu. Name of the recipe is Trileçe. It's Hispanic and it means 3 milk dessert. And the amazing thing about this is this recipe actually comes from South America to Balkans and then to Turkey. And it has an incredible story and I'll tell you the story. First, I want to get going on the recipe. What this recipe is about is this really spongy cake with milk and a bit of cream, and on top there is this dulce de leche, which is like a milk jam. It's this amazing life-altering dish. Now, I'm gonna put milk, but before I put milk, I'm gonna put some water at the bottom of my pan. And do you know why this is? When you do this just small trick, the milk doesn't usually stick. I turn on the heat. I'm gonna put a liter of milk and make the dulce de leche very fast. There's a greater way of making dulce de leche, but this is an easy way. And where you live, if you have access to dulce de leche, you don't need to do this. I'm putting a liter of milk, 125 grams of sugar, 125 grams of brown sugar, which is about 5 to 6 tablespoons. Why brown? Because it gives also a nice color. I'm going to stir until the sugars melt. As you can see, our milk started to boil. At this point, we have to put baking soda. Smell your baking soda. If it's like has a bitter smell, you have to use less. And if it's very bitter, don't use it. It's gonna ruin the milk. We're gonna put half a teaspoon of this baking soda. And when we're putting it, this is gonna create a bit of foam. And it's growing, as you can see. What does the baking powder do? It prevents it from curdling. As you can see, we have to lower it as much as possible. I'm gonna let it have a foam a bit for a while. And then after a while, I'm going to collect it. I'm going to move it to a lower heat. As you can see, the lowest on the stove, this one, there is 9. I'm going to put it into 2 and then a little later to 1. Why to 2? Because I want to collect the foam a bit. If you don't collect the foam, you can still have a jam, but it won't be as smooth and even in color. As you can see, some more foam can be created. This is not something to throw away. This is actually a great dessert to eat. Put it on a bread with a bit of cheese. It tastes great. Oh,
they're so sweet. Oh, delicious.
It's yummy. And as you can see on the sides here, these parts, as it gets warm, will start to burn and it's not good. It will change the taste. So what I'm going to do, I have a cheesecloth here. I'm going to wet it and clean the sides. Be careful because it's very hot.
Do we do this every 15 minutes or 20 minutes?
In every half an hour it will do because it's very low on heat. This is gonna reduce around 2 hours. As it reduces, the color is gonna get darker, taste is gonna get denser, and the density is gonna also increase, and it's gonna be gorgeous. 1 hour later, the milk slightly turns color, but still very thin, like this. After 2.5 hours, now this is the color. I am collecting the foam. This is edible, but if you do not collect the foam, it becomes curdled after a while. Now I put it into a pot to understand its consistency when it cools down. When your dulce de leche is ready, it's gonna be still a bit runny, but when it cools down, the sugar gets thicker. So let's move on making the cake. Now, when we are making the cake, what's special about this cake? It's like a very nice sponge cake. So back in where you live, if you have a ready-made sponge cake, you can use those. The thing is that it has to be spongy and low in terms of sugar. And how do you make a nice sponge cake? The thing is, we need 6 eggs. Normally, I have to separate the yolk from the white. And while I was talking, I just like cracked the egg and here it is. What I can do, I want to show you this because I believe some people don't know it. I can take this yolk in my hands without ruining the outer skin and put the yellow here and the white into the mixture. So if you just accidentally crack it, remember, so 6 eggs in room temperature. Now, how do you make this great cake? Very simple, 4 ingredients: flour, powdered sugar, baking powder, and egg yolks, and maybe a pinch of salt. What we first have to do is we have to get some air to these eggs. So pinch of salt and whisking. Okay, when this turns into white foam, but it's still wiggly, it's time to slowly start adding the powdered sugar. And what we are gonna do is have a tablespoon every 15 seconds. Okay. Now, we don't have to make it like the one we do it in meringue, like high peaks. We don't need that. What we have to do is add the egg yolks right now, roughly mix it. I'm not doing this very fast because the fat in the egg yolk might kill the foam a bit. So I add the baking powder, whisk it again like this, and then it's almost done. Now the fun parts. We're gonna fold the flour. I have 2 cups of flour. And what I'm going to do, add the flour here and slowly put it like this. For example, if you don't have a sieve like this, you can have it like a small fillet with holes and put the flour in a jar and like in one hand pour it and on the other hand fold it. And then instead of whisking it, I'm going to fold the flour. Why? Because I don't want to kill all the air with the mixer. Now there's like a white blanket on top. You fold it so that that flour is mixed with the sugar and egg mixture. It doesn't have to be perfect at the first moment. Folding is just taking it from the bottom to the top. Bottom to the top. Something that is important, when we are folding, we have to fold it always to the same direction. Like we shouldn't do this and then turn it back again. Always to the same direction. Okay, this is done. You can even taste it, it's beautiful. Now, second stage. Here I have a tray to 24 centimeters to 32. This is gonna make the cake thick. What I have to do, especially I have to butter the bottom because it might have a tendency, because it's very thick, to stick. Now, I'm going to put the cake, but there's a fun part. Normally, I'm really against plastic in the kitchen, but this is our lifesaver. We have done this with Refika'dan. As you know, it's really hard to scrape the bottom. So there's a scraper here, and there's also for filtering like rice, chickpeas, anything like that. There's a filter here, so we can do this and you can like just take it out and use it as an ordinary bowl, which has a pouring place. I push everything here. Like this at once. Isn't it amazing? It's because this is too thick. We just have to scrape from the mouth part. This is rather a thick batter, so we have to use our spatula. As you can see how much air is inside. We have to distribute this evenly. It's very sticky, so buttering the bottom is very, very important. Don't forget the sides. You might ask why this batter is too dry. The reason is we have to make it soak a lot of milk, and for it to soak a lot of milk, it has to lack a bit of milk. We make the top straight. If you have a problem, like if it starts to stick, always wet your spatula and go over it another time. So this might make it easier. Usually when you bake, what happens is the middle grows. We don't want that, we want a flat one. So to prevent that from happening, I'm going to let this fall for a while. 2, 3. This makes it more even and also let it sit. I'm going to let this sit for 1 minute and then this will even straighten the surface a little more and put it in the oven. It's 200 degrees Celsius. I'm going to put it, voila! There are 5 rows. I'm going to put it in the second one, but it's going to be actually around the middle, because when you put it in the middle row, it becomes a little higher, so the top burns. That's really important. So, one thing left to prepare the milk. For the milk to not to stick, we turn on the heat. What we're gonna do, we have 1.7 liters of milk, but I'm going to put around 200 milliliters of milk and 125 grams, which is half a cup of sugar. And I'm going to dissolve the sugar. And when the sugar totally dissolves, I'm going to add the rest of the milk and then 400 milliliters of cream. This cream is 35% fat. In different parts of the world, these creams are called different ways. This is called the whipping cream. If your cream is a little heavier, you can reduce it. Like this is 400 milliliters. The amount of fat is 0.35 times 400, which is 140 milliliters of fat. So what it corresponds to is whatever you want to put. I'm sorry for the mathematics, but I think you understood. So when I pour all these things together, I turn off the heat. We have to stir it a bit so the lumps disappear. So everything is ready actually. I'm just gonna bring all of them together when they're all cooked. Meanwhile, I want to tell you the story of this beautiful dish and how it traveled around the world to come to you right now. 5 to 6 years ago, it was a big craze in Turkey. Everyone was looking after Trileçe, I want Trileçe, this is something great. It suddenly became really popular and we didn't know where it came from. And then we have understood that it came from Balkans because Balkans were in the old days Ottoman land. Some people migrated and stayed here. But some of their families are still there and living. They time to time go and they found this recipe and brought them to Turkey. Then slowly, one by one, it became a craze. But like the name of this dessert is Trileçe. There's nothing Hungarian, there's nothing Bulgarian about this. Where did this come from? There had to be some Hispanic connection. Like 30 to 40 years ago, there was this big soap opera craze from Brazilian, Argentinian, which was Mariana, Slave Isaura, Marimar.
And I remember Rosalinda.
Rosalinda. If anything you remember, please write it down. Anyways, we were all watching. I grew up watching it. If you're about 35 to 40, you would definitely know. And this was all around the world. Now, Turkish cities are really popular, and then it was South American. In one of those, they were talking about Trileçe. And some people heard this. From whatever they heard, they made this recipe in the Balkans. They got it that way and it traveled to Turkey. In South America, when I looked back and searched whether it was popular, where it came from, I found where it came from. It was probably a small local recipe or someone invented it. That is a vague part. And Nestle put it on the condensed milk can and it became a wider known recipe. From that, I have realized, okay, condensed milk. And Trileçe means 3 milk. And when you ask anyone in Turkey, they say Trileçe is 3 types of milk. Cow's milk, lamb's milk, goat's milk. That's tricky because like when you mix it, it doesn't have like this higher taste or anything. And it's really hard to find, so not so possible. Then I thought maybe it's 3 different phases of milk. Milk phase, cream phase, and jam phase. Trileçe, 3 milk. So I have developed this recipe for you from all the things that I've heard and known. Because in Turkey, sometimes they put caramel on it and not so good. This is this amazing version of it. Hope you'll enjoy it. And I wanted to tell you this story because it's really a summary of how the world, how the culture can inspire one another and how it travels from places to places. So it's a great summary that I like, so I wanted to share it with you. Now I feel like Martha Stewart because like whatever she makes, there's a one stage that is already done. So mine is in the oven, but this one we made yesterday, so it cooled down totally. What I'm going to do is go with the back of a knife. It's a wooden knife, but it can be any kind of knife. So I'm gonna check whether this falls. This is bad news, it doesn't fall. So with my spatula, which I love, I am trying to move it from all sides. I think hopefully it will get out. Yes! I take these off. Are you gonna eat it? Ah, yeah. This is for me. This is like a baby biscuit. I love it. I'm going to cut from all sides about 1 centimeter. This is what we like. When there are holes like this, it means it was having fun and it's ready to soak milk. These sides are great for dipping into the tea. Okay, very nice. Exactly 30 centimeters. And here I think it's 20. I'm going to cut this in 3 pieces and then 6 centimeters. So there are going to be 5 pieces. To make it easy, I'm just going to put my ruler here. Have a ruler in your kitchen, that helps a lot. And I start with the 6th one. I am dyslexic, so it's really hard for me to cut this straightly, which I ruined already. Excuse my unexact squares, but I'm going to put them in here like this. As you know, like I've cut so much, but there are still spaces. So I want them to soak the milk from everywhere. What I'm going to do is, as you can see, put the milk and look how it does. It magically soaks all the milk in. Try to go in order and try to pour equal amounts of milk. I'm going to put all the milk. And as it soaks the milk, it's gonna grow in size. If you like the video so far and want to motivate us, 3 things you can do. First of all, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you haven't press like. That is so important for us. And also, if you write a little comment, your name, where you come from, or whatever dish you want, please write it down. That would be marvelous. The 4th one. If you really like the video and want to appreciate, there's the super thanks, which Burak loves a lot. I love a lot. Thank you. If you do that, that would also be marvelous. And finally, we pour the bottom as well. As you can see, almost the tray is full with milk. And it already grew, but this has to really cool down and grow a bit more. So it has to sit for about another 2-3 hours. So I'm going to put this on the side and bring the one we made this morning. As you can see, now inside we see this much of milk. And when we look at the side, we only have a little milk at the bottom. So that's it. Also, the dulce de leche we made yesterday is gonna go on top. Now, I am slowly covering the top. I don't push it too much because then the crumbs can get into my spatula and I don't want that. So, this is all done. Mamma mia. How do we eat it now? The fun part. The first one will not get out perfectly. We have to live with the facts. That's not so bad actually, but don't eat this with fork. We eat it with a spoon because we want that milk. As you can see, when you press it, look at the milk that goes out. Every time, so good. Another one bites the dust. Burak, probably you have missed this, sir. Sorry. Oh, that's it. Hope you liked the video. Hope you enjoyed it. We love you guys. Hope you enjoyed the story as well. Lots of love. Don't forget to subscribe and also press like if you really love. Super thanks. Yeah. Take care.
Bye bye.